It is time for OTB AM's GAA Quick Picks.
Some of these critics, these pundits,
I absolutely adore them lads. I have unbelievable time for them, but they're a great bunch, but it's not acceptable.
They'd like to play the hard man when they're on it. It's not very pleasant when you're trying to manage a team. All you're looking for is a bit of civility and a bit of decency, but they just dismiss you like you have nothing to do with the bloody occasion.
Just to state that nobody cares about these results, but let's have a look at them anyway. To start off this week on the Quick Picks, we're just doing this for fun. The scoreboard is completely incidental to all of our lives. There I am at the bottom, 39 points, who cares? Will, you're on 43 points. You're only one behind Adrian Barry at this point. He's on 44. Tommy on 45. It is very much a three-horse race. This could go any way, and we've got, 2 fixtures left. So really, it is all...
Oh, and it's not over, man. You get two results bang on and you're back in the mix.
Thank you, Tommy. You would need to... Basically, if we go for the same team today, then... Oh, no, actually, no, sorry. If I get if I get the scoreline bang on, everybody else gets 0. So, yeah, so actually, that's I could. So, I thank you, Tommy. I need to get 2 of these bang on and we can do it. So, let's have a look.
Do you want to change your prediction now that you know you can win?
Well, I don't know what you guys are predicting. As always, I play this game honestly and fairly, unlike some people. This week's quick picks for Tyrone versus Kerry, the All-Ireland football semi-final, look like this. So, I see. So we'll start from the smallest margin to the biggest. Adrian going for Kerry by 3 points. I'm going for Kerry by 4 points. Tommy's going for Kerry by 5 points. And Will O'Callaghan's gone nuclear. Kerry by 9. Will, I like what you've done here. So my issue with Dublin versus Mayo, was going for 10 rather than 9. Should have gone for 9 because 10 seems way more dramatic than 9. 9 would have been like a single figure margin, fair enough. But 10 has like former Republic of Ireland internationals spamming you with abuse in the aftermath of the game. So, Will, I like your thinking here. Why are you going for Kerry by 9?
Well, look, that's the exact reason you go to a shop and something's $9.99 as opposed to a tenner.
Correct.
No, I think I had to try and find a point of difference because the exact argument that you've made a moment ago, which is that 2 exactly correct results are probably required to try and overhaul Tommy, given that we're all going to go for Kerry this weekend, and we'll see what happens then with the All-Ireland final. But I actually think that this might be a Kerry 9-point victory because I think Kerry may well let loose. I mean, the evidence that we have so far is that Kerry were well ahead of this Tyrone team when they met at the end of the National Football League. Both teams have come through a hardened championship between now and then, but as we're all aware, Tyrone's preparations for this game have been far from ideal because of their COVID outbreak and because of the lack of training that they were able to have in the first week when the game was put back. I know Kerry have had to sit around for an extra couple of weeks before playing this fixture, but Kerry have been awesome this summer. You can yera all you want, but Kerry have been irresistible. They've been the team of the championship so far. They have been free scoring. And I think even, as Paddy Andrews was saying about Tyrone potentially getting players behind the ball and putting up a wall to try and stop Kerry this weekend, I'm backing Kerry to find the answers and to win comfortably on Saturday afternoon.
I just want to respond to that yera thing at the moment, Will, and I just want to explain the state of mind at the moment that people in Kerry, I think, are. I don't speak for anybody in Kerry, but here's what I'm thinking at the moment. So you're right. This Kerry season has been exceptional. It's got people extremely excited. And how could you not be excited after watching some of the football that they've played this year? Even the one thing that you could logistically throw out and say, Dublin really caused problems, and if they play Dublin again, then they're screwed because of the 4 goals they scored in third. That's out the window now because Dublin are gone. So that kind of adds to the excitement. The thing that is just making people nervous is the 5-week gap. So, I don't know, it's almost kind of like asking for a really good present for Christmas and that you're almost certain that Santa will be generous enough to deliver it. Like you've asked for a PS5 and there is something sitting under the Christmas tree wrapped up that looks like a PS5. It's the same size as a PS5. You give it a shake and it even sounds like a PS5 should sound. But then your head starts to go into overdrive. You're like, God, PlayStation 5s are pretty much the same size as a hot point microwave. Could Santa have screwed me over and given me a microwave instead of a PlayStation 5 for Christmas? He's got form, this fella. He delivered a bag of coal just last year. There is every potential that when I open this present on Christmas Day, it will be disappointment. But there is no question about it. PlayStation 5s are absolutely class. They're amazing. And if we open that present tomorrow and the amazing version of Kerry is there, still preserved after 5 weeks, then I think there is no chance to get beaten. So it is that 5-week gap that people are pointing towards. But then I would make the counterpoint around Tyrone that they've had as disrupted a line of preparation. So I can see why you're coming at this from your angle, Will, but I'm just that little bit more nervous.
And look, nerves are understandable. I see Tommy Rooney in the other corner of the screen has been shaking his head since the first moment that we spoke. So
I just wanted to say,
got a bit of a kick here.
I just want to say, Will, that the arrogance, the entitlement is absolutely astounding from Owen Sheehan, speaking on behalf of all Kerry people right there. The Santa Claus Ps5 line is the greatest thing you've ever said in the show, because that is exactly how you're hardwired down in Kerry. You expect Sam Maguire every year. It's like you write a note at the start of the year. Oh, please, Santa, can we get Sam? Please, can we get it back? And if that's the attitude going into this weekend, Kerry are in serious bother. If that, I hope you're not speaking for the nation.
No, I'm just speaking for myself. But no, Tommy, we write a polite letter to Santa. We behave well all year because he sees you when you're sleeping and all that. And we put in the hard yards that are required to get a good gift at the end. And
it does look like Kerry.
Now we'll move off the PS5.
It does look like Kerry have put in the hard yards. It really does. And I really enjoyed that little bit between yourself and Louise there when you were talking about the fact that Kerry people are upset that they weren't the ones to end Dublin's reign. Because that has been the focus for Kerry since 2019. I'd say since forever. Since Dublin went on the 6-in-a-row run, it was so important for Kerry. I think since Mayo bet them, that was a bit of a sucker punch. Like, whatever about how Tyrone have been affected by the COVID outbreak in the camp and the way the game's been pushed back, it's definitely affected Kerry. Well, I don't agree with you that Kerry have been the team of the championship. They were 100% the team in the league, but I actually think that there's been a couple of questions asked to Kerry in Munster where, let's call a spade. The Munster Senior Football Championship isn't the most competitive championship in the country right now. It's not like Ulster. If there was questions asked to Dublin and Leinster, I certainly think there was a couple of questions asked to Kerry. Clare kept them to a very low score for about 50 minutes. Clare just didn't have the firepower up front to get the job done. Tipperary's wall was broken by Gavin White, and after that they never really posed a challenge, and Cork obviously had that first quarter against them. I actually think that Kerry might spook themselves going into this All-Ireland semi-final a wee bit, and I think they may have done just that. I think you look brave going for 9 points, Will, but I actually think there's only two ways this game goes. I think it goes down to the absolute wire and Tyrone push them all the way, or we're going to see something similar to the league. And I know it's a bit of a contradiction to say it. We're going to see something similar to the league where Tyrone are absolutely wiped and they just can't put up a challenge because of the impact of COVID on the squad. And it ends up being close to 20 points. Because I think if Kerry get their tails up, they're going to put the foot in the throat. I genuinely believe it, that they're going to go for goals and they will absolutely bury Tyrone to get the chance. I just have a feeling that Tyrone are going to be ready to go here this weekend, and it's going to be a really, really good game, and it's going to be tight.
Will you respond to that?
Yeah, look, I mean, we're going in on blind form to a large extent because we're not sure exactly where the two teams are at because of the last few weeks. I would have been far more bullish even about Kerry's chances if this game had been played on the weekend it was due to be played. And I take Tommy's point. I think psychologically it's a weird space for Kerry to be in too, because normally they would have been facing into this game on the Sunday just after the semi-final. And say if Dublin had beaten Mayo, the minds would have been so sharp on the idea of trying to get to an All-Ireland final to have that face-off against Dublin. It would be only natural once Dublin had been knocked out of the championship that the path seems open, particularly the way that Kerry have got on in All-Ireland finals against Mayo previously, that there'd be a certain amount of giddiness about this. And they've had to wait this couple of weeks to get ready for it. And look, Tyrone have found answers in this championship throughout the year. We've spoken about the coin toss fixtures that they had against Donegal, against Monaghan in the Ulster final, and Tyrone were able to hold on. But I don't know if Tyrone have that scoring power to stick with Kerry if Kerry do open them up with a couple of goals this weekend. And that would be my biggest worry. Like, Tyrone are scoring kind of mid-10s, 15, 16 points in games that they've played so far. I appreciate that there's Ulster viewers who are watching us right now saying that's the nature of the Ulster Championship, but I don't know if Tyrone will be able to stick with Kerry if Kerry get running with a few scores. And I really think there's a big performance in Kerry this weekend. A Munster Championship, sure, they didn't play brilliantly. They worked their way into it, but they were stunning at the end of the Munster Championship. And the way that they put Cork away was just ridiculous. And that was a kind of a statement performance. And I think we could see a similar type of performance against Tyrone this weekend, albeit Tyrone are a much stronger opposition defensively than Cork were. And they're not going to sink in the same way Cork did in that second half.
Yeah, I also, just to go back to the Gavin Devlin quotes, because they're really interesting. There's somebody who's involved in the game very recently saying we want that Tyrone can expose Kerry for what they really are. I guess this is a really interesting thread that's actually been written and said quite a bit about Kerry over the last few years, about the fact that they show some sort of defensive weakness in the Munster Championship, and then this thing is thrown out about them that just wait until Dublin get their hands on them. Just you wait. If that's what Cork did to them, just you wait until what Dublin did, what Dublin can do to them. Now, of course, Thurles this year, they scored 4 goals against them, but I would actually go back to 2019 when that sort of stuff was being said about them as well. And I think 2019 is a great example that everybody was saying that the frailties that they showed in the Munster Championship were going to be torn asunder when they got up against the All-Ireland champions. And it just never seems to happen. It just doesn't happen in that regard. That I know why people say this, but I think there's a very different Kerry that we see against big teams to the one that we see against weaker teams in Munster, to put it bluntly. And I think that it is based a little bit more around a stronger defence, and I think that maybe Peter Keane went one step too far with it last year. And I actually wonder that if there is a slight retreat from Kerry tomorrow, kind of accepting that exposing of Kerry, that possibility is always out there, but they've always come prepared for these sort of big games. I don't know. I just think that what he's saying is interesting, and I think that he's somebody. I don't think we can write off these comments as some fella who's just harping on from the sidelines in Tyrone. This is somebody who knows what an inter-county setup is like, who has done opposition research on Kerry over the last couple of years, and it's very interesting that tone is out there about Kerry in reality in inter-county setups. Now, of course, it's a new management now, and it's different now, but I just think it's worth kind of reiterating that.
Yeah, look, I actually think it's a bit more of a war cry from Gavin Devlin to try and remind the Tyrone boys that, look, this is there for you to take. It's so hard to know, like we're previewing this game, it's so hard to know how Tyrone are going to be impacted. I know that it's difficult to predict and make a prediction around that. But one thing that we do know, even if they haven't been affected by a COVID outbreak, is that Tyrone have struggled to score goals all this year. And Tyrone are going to need to score goals if they're going to get at Kerry. They really are going to have to score goals, and they're going to have to stop goals in the far end, because the frightening thing, and Sean Powder spoke about it on OTB AM yesterday on, I'll finish up on this. Yeah. That Kerry forward line, when they're playing with their 6 forwards, it's so difficult to have 6 inter-county defenders to match them. Hampsey and McNamee are going to have their hands full. Tyrone are going to be filtering bodies back to deal with O'Brien and Gainey. Paddy Clifford needs tagging, as Powder said. I just think Kerry are going to have just enough. I think they're going to be challenged, but they're going to have just enough.
Right, and that is reflected in your prediction. Will O'Callaghan, the headline pick there, at a 9-point win for Kerry. Good luck this weekend, lads.
Cheers. Stick it on
Cheers,
the
Owen. Best of luck to you.
Yeah,
stick it up there.
Sorry, just a couple of comments actually coming in before we let you go. Mark says, Owen, you forgot to mention that Xboxes and other consoles are also available. And Paul says, we all love a PS5 in Tralee for sure, Tommy. Who doesn't wish for Sam? I think it's overdue that Kerry scored a lot more goals. That is this week's Quick Picks.